our first guest is Dr. Sean Kingston.
Well done, yeah.
And he's gonna talk to us about the publishing anthropology, making the global to personal.
Thank you so much. Don't worry about pronunciation in the field. They always call me Scene, which I got used to. I got absolutely used to. It's an Irish name. Okay, so this is me. I'm going to say hello. My name is Sean Kingston, and I've been an academic publisher of anthropology with my own press, Sean Kingston Publishing, for 20 years. At this point, I ask, now what reaction does that provoke, an identification as an academic publisher these days? Applause? Boos? Boo. Are your ideas of publishers and publishing positive or negative? Publishing is important. It populates our world with text, images, values, ideas. The process of being published is the final shape to creative works. Being a publisher has been compared to being a midwife. Publishers are there to assist in that magic moment, the last step in the creative act, when the publication the author has been labouring over for years in private finally comes out into the public and stands independently. But its fate is now in the hands of readers and viewers. Algorithms and bots, we all know about those. But there is another way of conceiving of this magic, this little transformation, a publication that can also be a moment of, shall we say, alienation, when the creator and their work become a little more depersonalized, a series of numbers and transactions to be farmed by these very large corporations that run our lives. Because academic publishing, as you are probably aware, can be very big business indeed. It's dominated by enormous multinational corporations. The majority of $19 billion annual revenue goes to just 5 corporations. Elsevier, John Wiley, Taylor Francis, Springer, and Sage. Names you may or may not be familiar with. The biggest, Elsevier, has profit margins of 38%. Believe it or not, that's more than Apple or Google. So you know where to buy your stocks. They have almost 10,000 employees, and they're just a subsidiary of an even bigger corporation called Relex. Taylor and Francis, number 3 in our little list of big publishers, are the academic publishing arm of another parent company called Informa. Their subsidiary, Routledge, claimed to be the largest global academic publisher within humanities and social sciences, my field, anthropology. And they publish roughly 5,000 books per year and have thousands of journals. That's what I'm up against. That's a lot of product, a lot of books, a lot of churn, shall we say. And then we have the far end of the spectrum. The outlier in the dataset of publishers, what I like to think of as the leading publisher of anthropology in terms of quality, attention, and just darn friendliness. You've guessed, that's Sean Kingston Publishing. We publish up to 10 books a year and have one journal. A husband and wife team were also well-regarded, high-quality, international publishing enterprise. Let me give you a little insight into my commute. This is going to be a view of the trip to corporate HQ. So there's our little cottage in the it's Hereford. Most people here won't know that. It's the border between England and Wales. Under a little hill, I go past the flowers. There's my office. You can see in the distance, and that is. Well, beyond starting the publishing company, that is probably the pride of my children, of course, and wife, but that is a 100-year-old cherry tree under which I work every day. It's a little 2-desk office from which we run the entire business. It's safe to say, by anyone's metrics, we are a micro-publisher, is the polite word for it. But we're also a family business focused on the needs of our authors and readers, specifically the diverse community of anthropologists and those who work with them. Rather than following the demands of shareholders, private equity, or rather distant boards. Our scale, personal experience, expertise, and relationships allow us to do many things differently than the big corporations. But equally, modern methods of printing, financing, and some strategic partnerships allow us to participate in exactly the same markets and take our small share of them. I like to think of what we do as artisanal publishing. Every aspect of the process gets personal attention. We use some carefully chosen freelancers, but only a few, only under supervision, and no stage of the process is out of sight. We value all the stages equally. Copy editing, cover design, marketing text, and the rest. All are carefully considered and executed by a very limited number of people working together. The difference in approach to conventional publishers, where an editor or production manager may have hundreds of books on her roster for a small stage of the process, is quite stark. It's impossible for most authors to name everyone involved in the production of their book. Not so for our authors. We treat them as individuals and their books as projects with their own specific requirements. We don't take the cookie cutter approach of the big publishers. I invite you to look at Routledge's website maybe. The Anthropology list will show you a lot of abstract generic covers, produced almost automatically, at most by a few clicks of a button. Cover design is something we involve our authors in. We take time and indeed pleasure in producing something that represents the work properly. We just got a few little objects for you to look at here. The automation of covers is just one easily visible sign of an increased use of templates and worse. It's not going to be long before the big publishers start using AI to edit your books. I know Routledge have recently got into hot water by selling the content of their academic books onto one of the tech companies so they can use it for AI training. And they're happy to do so without seeking any permission from their authors. But please don't sue me. I only publish one specific subject, anthropology, albeit the broadest definition of it. And I'm a specialist in the field myself. I have a doctorate, based 2 years fieldwork in Melanesia. I've written anthropological texts, had them published, including one that was awarded a prize many years ago for appeared in a very prestigious journal known as Journal of the Royal Anthropological Institute that you may have heard of. And it's my academic background that shaped the books we publish. I started my press. My very first books were from scholars in the Pacific, my specialization. But it was not long before we published books covering every continent, bar Antarctica yet. I'm looking for the book on Antarctica. So when we started the press, we started with literally 2 books. And I couldn't have really asked for a marker of the high quality we're aiming for, that we were given a book by Marilyn Strathern, or I should call her Dame Marilyn Strathern, Emeritus Professor of Anthropology at Cambridge University, one of the most well-known, influential anthropologists still living today. Marilyn worked with us not just on our first book, but also on our most recent. So this is a relationship that's gone 20 years. And her continued support to what we do as a press has been invaluable. Though over time we've published and been supported by many other quite eminent and well-regarded scholars, often more than once. The other book you see up there, Rationales of Ownership, was edited by a very talented Melanesianist, James Leach, and the other chap up there, Lawrence Calino, is a Papua New Guinean lawyer, or I should say, he's unfortunately no longer with us. But that laid down another marker that we've tried to pursue throughout our 20 years of publishing, which is the foregrounding of authors and communities from the global south. What this means, beyond openness to publishing such authors, is that we're always looking for ways to make our books accessible to communities they're about. We've been fortunate enough to attract funding to send books to Sudan, Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, and probably somewhere I've forgotten. We're also sometimes able to license books, so we have some of our books available at the University of Namibia Press, for instance. But most excitingly, let me show you the exciting thing. So actually, this is the most recent book we've got with Marilyn. just out a few weeks ago. But most excitingly, we've recently been able to publish The Last White Canoe, which is entirely bilingual volume in English and Lao, a local language from the Solomon Islands, giving equal status to both languages as a way to return cultural heritage. The book is not only co-researched and co-authored by people from the Solomons, from Lao I should say in fact, but I'm happy to say it's even getting reviewed in an academic journal, the Contemporary Pacific, by somebody from the village that held the ritual the book is about. So we've got participation at every stage, which is something I'm really proud about and quite happy to blow our trumpet about. And we've sent hundreds of these books to the Solomon Islands, and the Solomon Islands government has in fact put in an order for a few hundred more. It was the relationships I had with anthropologists that allowed me to start the press. And for them, I wanted to do things differently, working in a way that resisted treating authors as products. And it was new developments in printing and distribution that allowed me to develop a press that could do this. This was the print-on-demand revolution. Allowed me to not only print books one by one in Europe, America, Australia, but also allowed us to get sales and distribution in all these continents from some of the biggest book wholesalers and library suppliers in the world, along with a presence on Amazon, etc., and all the other things you expect. We had both a virtual warehouse and a spare room full of books. The virtual warehouse for international orders, the spare room for UK orders. Although the print costs with print on demand are higher than conventional printing, most publishers have now, I'd like to say, followed our path, but they now use print on demand. But when I started, it allowed me to be a lean specialist publisher. We had lower costs, we didn't have to pay for storage, and so forth. It's a way to start on low capital. Excuse me. So we had a chance to make it work just with those initial few books. Initially, we also did publishing services to help pay the bills, and British Museum Press was, at one point, a big support in that. Then the publishing venture began to pay off and became the majority of the business. And in some ways, the two sides of our business, publishing services and publishing, have now overlapped again, as open access is all the rage, and is in a way providing a publishing service to the funders of that open access. Let me show you some of those. So financing book publication has become easier with the growing development of open access funding. We published our first open access book in 2018, Bruce Kapfer's State Resistance Transformation. And as with many of our books, we've got a variety of funding. So the European Research Council, the Research Council of Norway, and Bergen University, all involved in funding that book. Open access was not really very widespread when we started in 2004. And for quite some time, it was really only accessible for journals, probably as a reaction to the large, perhaps one might dare say excessive, subscriptions and profits journal publishers such as Elsevier make. When we publish open access, we always do it alongside a conventional print edition, usually an inexpensive paperback. It would obviously be cheaper just to do an ebook, but then that would be a disservice to our authors. We found information about books somehow flows further and through different channels, when there's also a possibility of other people making a profit with it, i.e. retailers and library suppliers and so forth. Similarly, we also make an ebook available through ProQuest and their e-library channels to complement our regular printed books. We have always focused primarily on books, monographs and collections, and this isn't accidental. In my view, books, are vital for the social sciences, particularly anthropology. They allow the space for extended argumentation, presentation of substantive ethnography, or the elaboration of a particular vision or authorial voice. Journals, of course, have their role, notably in the creation of communities of scholars. but they can also be an unhelpful driver of volume, rather than quality sometimes in academic publishing. Perhaps analogous to fast fashion, one might even dare to say. We've been blessed with some wonderful institutional partners, the longest being with the RAI, the Royal Anthropological Institute. In fact, my first experience in academic publishing came in the writing up stage of my PhD, when I got a position at the RAI working with their journals, Anthropology Today, and also Man, as it was known in those days. Which shows how long ago it was. And I got familiar with the latest technology at the London College of Printing and so forth. And then I went on, after my PhD, I was approached to become the general manager of Bern Books in Oxford, a slightly bigger publishing you may have heard of. And that's where I learned the publishing trade. But beyond giving me my early grounding in publishing, the Royal Anthropological Institute has been one of my longest standing publishing partners. In collaboration with its current director, David Shankland, we published 3 series. The very venerable RAI Occasional Papers, which dates back to who knows when. We're now the custodian of that. Up to volume number 47, so we have some volumes from that up on the screen. All varied things, generally from the committees or conferences that the RAI have. We also publish the RAI Country Series on the differing anthropological scenes and academic cultures in various countries. So we got France, Austria, Poland, Wales and Norway. Ireland is coming up. When's the Swiss or German one coming? Well, somebody talk to me afterwards. We'd love to do that. Finally, with the RAI, we published the RAI series, which has had 4 volumes so far, and I haven't brought any of these with me because they are massive, big, heavy things that I'm not going to fit in my hand luggage. 2 monumental works by Paul Silito, built in New Guinea and made in New Guinea. The Nualu World of Plants, so not so far from where we were looking at the film of, about the people of Seram in eastern Indonesia. A culmination of 50 years ethnobiological work by Roy Ellen, and a worthy winner of, I think it's called the Mary Klinger Prize for the best book on ethnobotany. And most recently, A Touch of Genius, monumental reappraisement and contextualization of the life and work of Edward Evans Pritchard, edited by his last research assistant, with no less than 36 chapters, many by African scholars. This was launched with great acclaim at All Souls College in Oxford last year, and was even nominated in the Times Literary Supplement as one of the books of the year in their Christmas list, so maybe some people got it for Christmas. I should mention other long-standing partners. We've done a lot of work with British people from the British Museum and the British Museum Press in our day, often highly illustrated works such as this one. We've also got a close relationship with the Centro Incontri Umani, which is based in Ascona in the Ticino in Switzerland, and directed by my very close friend, dear friend, Angela Hobart, and that's one of the books we've done with them, Pilgrimage to Mount Beauty. That one is open access. And we have many other university collaborators, University of Bergen, St Andrews University, many others. And as we're here at EthnoKino Film Festival, I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight a significant strand of our output is actually about visual culture. My first degree was art history, so I'm always keen on that. The most recent being a really special book right here, called Sharing the Camera, by a German ethnographic filmmaker called Martin Gruber. It's a really honest account of the complexities of collaborative anthropological filmmaking with a host of practical recommendations. I can also recommend to you Rematerializing Colour, a fantastic collection showing how colour derives from practical involvement in the world. There's essays about colour on photography and cinematography, as well as anthropology and linguistics. And in honour of, we had some wonderful Iranian films last night. I thought I'd draw your attention to a couple we have on Iranian visual culture. What people do with images is a fantastic book on contemporary art in Iran and how it's gone out through the diaspora and how it's redefining communities. An Iranian sacred defense cinema behind me there is really pioneering exploration of the genre of war films that rose alongside the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s. Excuse me, I should have had a drink before I started. Anyway, that's really a whistle-stop tour of some things we do. And I hope I can persuade you of the benefits of publishing small. After all, the classic mode of ethnography is for an anthropologist to research and learn through establishing individual relations within the social groups they're exploring. It seems quite a big switch in implicit values to turn around and convert the products of those personal relationships into one of high capitalism, shall I say. There are other narratives and other values we can associate our work with when we publish. Perhaps one of them can be the narrative of the artisan, the skilled craftsperson whose small-scale workshop gives close attention both to the books being produced, but also the networks of relationships that create and give life to them. And that is what I have to say to you. So, please, in all aspects of your life, go small.